Hello, it's the beginning of the week right after the Thanksgiving holiday. Today is Monday, December 1st, 2025. Today is day 787. I'm Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon, Executive Director of Churches for Middle East Peace. This month is going to be the last month of my doing daily updates. We'll start on January 1st. We've been doing Thursday weekly summaries, and we'll do a weekly summary every Thursday. We'll announce that time soon. So we'll continue to do weekly updates, but we won't do daily updates any longer after the end of the year. So the new change will start on January 1st, 2026. Updates from the last 24 hours in the Middle East, particularly related to the Gaza catastrophe. The number of deaths over the last 2+ years has surpassed 70,000 people since October 2023. That was announced over the weekend. 301 people were added to the death toll just since Thursday. This includes 2 people killed in Israeli airstrikes and 299 individuals who were killed previously, but their remains were just discovered under the rubble. I also spent some time today in a meeting with a doctor from the Nasser hospital in Gaza. He said that it is the only health facility that is fully functional or maintains the majority of its capacities, but with such limited resources in every capacity that you possibly can think of. While I was talking to him, he was using the light from his cell phone because electricity was off in Gaza. He said that they have electricity right now 2 hours a day. We talked about the complete destruction of the entire healthcare system. We talked about the needs from humanitarian assistance to aid to the many thousands of trucks that are not being allowed across the border. We talked about some of the daily realities, which continue to be devastating and ridiculously challenging. I feel like that's an understatement. News from the occupied West Bank. Israeli security forces shot dead 2 Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. This was late last week after they had appeared to surrender. This has been all over the news and now is extending to the Western news sources. Palestinian officials condemned the killings and called them a field execution. Israeli authorities said in a statement they were investigating. They claimed the 2 men were involved in militant activity. A UN human rights person denounced the killings and saying that they appeared to be summary executions. You'll recall I shared last week that there was a video that was released or appeared in Turkish news sources. The articles I just cited are the New York Times and Reuters. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday submitted a request for a pardon for his own corruption charges. He submitted this to the legal department of the office of the Israeli president. Netanyahu said the pardon would help unify the country at a time of momentous change in the region. The president's office called this an extraordinary request and that it carries significant implications. You'll recall that President Trump has called on President Herzog of Israel to pardon Prime Minister Netanyahu. An Israeli raid on the south of Syria on Friday killed at least 13 people. An additional 24 were injured. The Israeli military said the troops had moved into Beit Jin to detain suspected Islamist militants, claiming the Israeli forces had returned fire after coming under attack from a gunman. Syrian news reported that Israeli forces had shelled Beit Jin before entering the town and then killing 13 residents, which included 2 children. The U.S. Central Command said yesterday that it and Syrian forces had destroyed 15 sites containing Islamic State weapons caches in Syria. This was between November 24th and 27th. The combined operation destroyed over 130 mortars and rockets, multiple assault rifles, machine guns, anti-tank, mines, and materials for building improvised explosion devices. As I normally close with an update on Christians in the Middle East, I wanted to highlight an article that came out late last month from Christianity Today that was on the investigation of PR campaigns following the Israel-Hamas war. Now, I will tell you how I read this article. I read it very much being one-sided of the PR campaign that supports Hamas or that supports Palestinian perspectives. It seemed to be very one-sided reporting to me. They did not talk about propaganda from the Israeli side in any way, shape, or form. The main source was Summit Ministries President Jeff Myers. This is a direct quote from the author Jill Nelson. Jeff Myers has seen evangelical attitudes towards Israel shift over the 3 decades he's spent working with young adults. In the early years, high school and college age students attended Christian nonprofits' worldview training conferences, and they rarely mentioned Israel unless it was in the context of biblical prophecy. The whole idea is with media-influenced young evangelicals, their support is wavering, and how Jerusalem needs to counter and offer a response. Today, students have strong political opinions about the Jewish states. So Jeff Myers said, young adults are not with you, not even young Christians. He said this to an Israeli intelligence officer over a dinner when he was in Israel 3 months after the Hamas attacks. There is history of the evangelical support of the state of Israel, such as Jerry Falwell Sr. calling the Bible Belt Israel's safety belt. There's references to things like that in the article. The article talks about how Arab countries that have ties with Hamas, such as Qatar and Iran, have amplified anti-Israel news and headlines. Qatar is one of the foreign entities financing anti-Israel propaganda through its media site, Al Jazeera. Now, that is... It's not that Qatar has not allowed for Hamas to play a role there, but Qatar also is one of the mediators with Israel. And so it's just a very not neutral reporting, let's put it that way, to put it mildly. So Christianity Today went on and said that Al Jazeera repeats Hamas's talking points while suppressing alternative perspectives. Now, I don't find Al Jazeera to be the most neutral either, but I don't find that it repeats Hamas's talking points. And I have read Al Jazeera and the Times of Israel and many other Hebrew news sources and other Arab news sources. And so I just would counter that perspective. Meanwhile, Israel is spending $150 million worldwide on multiple projects to challenge competing narratives in what some Israeli officials are calling the 8th front of the regional war in the Middle East. This is actually really important. We've been talking about this. You'll recall that a San Diego-based firm is launching a marketing campaign aimed at U.S. evangelicals. And according to the Foreign Agent Registration Act filing, there's a $4.1 million campaign that's seeking to reach churches in California, Arizona, Nevada, and Colorado by using biblical arguments to highlight the importance of Israel and Jewish people to Christians. Chad Schnittger is the founder of Show Faith by Works and has said that his organization has made significant changes to the project since the filing, focusing more on grassroots, scrapping the proposed geofencing campaign, which received public backlash from secular and church groups. He says he regrets that the original disclosure, the way that it was handled, noting that the group's lawyers recommended disclosure of all possible ideas, including those unlikely to be implemented. In general, support of Israel among U.S. evangelicals has remained steady over the past 4 years, according to surveys. The people interviewed said that they believe Jews are God's chosen people, according to a recent survey. Yet among evangelicals under the age of 35, that percentage drops to 29%. I don't want to go through all of the details of the article, but I really wanted to call your attention to it. Myers identified 2 categories from his perspective of anti-Israel beliefs among young evangelicals: progressives who hate Jews because of perceived colonialism, and conservatives who claim Jews are behind a global conspiracy. Now, both are incredibly problematic, but I think one of the things that I wish the article had addressed is that it's possible to protest the policies of the state of Israel and to love the Jewish people. In fact, I would argue if you love the Jewish people of Israel, let alone the Palestinians and other Arabs that are there, if you love the people of Israel, we're required to critique the policies of the state that are so horrific and causing such devastation and also contributing to the rise of anti-Semitism. So that would be my challenge. I encourage you to take a look at that article. I wanted you to know some perspectives that may or may not align with your own, nor with those of Churches for Middle East Peace. So may God go before us. May we continue in our efforts. I'll continue in the daily updates for the rest of this month. And I'm really grateful to be pursuing peace and justice alongside you. In the name of Christ, amen.